Christmas shopping can be stressful. But have no fear. I am here to help take away the stress of finding awesome gifts for people you love that they're going to love. My name is Roger Whitney. I am the Retirement Answer Man. That is this show. And this is the show dedicated to helping you not just survive retirement, but rock retirement. And this month, we're going to help you rock the holidays as well and prepare yourself for the Christmas season that is starting to get in full swing. So on today's show, what we're going to do is in the Hot Topic segment, I'm going to share 10 gift ideas that generally don't cost a lot of money and have a personal aspect to them, so you can simplify your shopping for the people you love. And then in the Practical Planning segment, we're going to answer some listener questions on how to rock retirement. So that's the plan for today, but we can't do any of these things until we have that all-important disclaimer. Time for that all-important disclaimer. I am the Grinch. I don't know the Grinch voice, so I do the disclaimer and the Grinch if I could do the Grinch voice. But anyway, I only give advice to clients, and you are not a client. You are a wonderful listener who I don't know anything about, and you don't know that much about me, so it'd be silly for me to give you advice or for you to take advice from me. But what I can do is share my 25 plus years of experience of walking this journey with people and give you some helpful hints and education. And what you can do is talk to your legal advisor, tax advisor, or financial advisor before you make any decisions, because that's just common sense. There's more disclosure language at the end if you want. Now, let's go find some awesome gifts for people we love. Well, in the news today, it appears that Christmas now starts in July. If you were going to go into a store, I'm trying to remember, I think it was July, I saw like the first Christmas item appear. And now we're in full consumerism mode, which makes the holidays, well, it sort of takes away what it's all about, and it makes it a lot more stressful because expectations, all these false expectations sent by the marketing geniuses that inhibit, well, retail. So what I thought I'd do is share 10 gift ideas that I've given and that I've received. They all have some commonality about them. One, they're not super expensive. So it's not like a car with a bow on top of it. They're not super expensive. Two, many of them, not all of them, have some personal touch that you can apply to them. And third, they all, for the most part, I say all, most of them have some aspect of creating an experience. Because I think, one thing that sticks with people more than anything are experiences, right? So I remember when my kids were young, when you'd go to grandma and grandpa's and there'd just be this mountain of gifts. Things don't create lasting impressions, right? Things don't normally do that. I remember, kids opening up presents. You think about it. They open up one, oh, awesome. And then they put it aside. Next. That's not going to create anything meaningful. One, that's just being a kid, but that happens to adults too. But things that have some personality or personalization or have some experience attached to it can be treasured for a very long period of time. So that's, for the most part, what these gifts have in common. So let's go start with number one is this company called fractureme.com. What they do is you upload a photo or an illustration, and they will print it or mount it on glass and send it to you so you can mount it on the wall. And this is how I display all of my photos now. I've used them for probably 3 or 4 years. If you've ever watched one of my webinars or seen me on video, I did my book cover is on a Fracture Me, and it's just an awesome way to display photos. So the way that I've used that from a gift perspective is I've known people that have run races and they were, it was something they trained for. So I would finagle. I said, they'll share the pictures on Facebook and everything else, and I'll have them email me the photo, not really telling them why. And then I'll create a fracture and send it to them. So they're getting a photo of themselves after the race or during the race as a momentum of that occasion. I've also used it. One of my, longtime clients just built a fancy office that they were very proud of, or he was very proud of. So what I did is I worked with his assistant and I got a really high res image of his logo. And then I did a massive fracture me, basically put his logo in this glass, and I had it delivered, and he has it in his conference room. So you can imagine with your aunt, your uncle, your mom, your dad, your grandma, how they might like to receive an image of something meaningful for them that they can display, and it's a great way to do it. So it's fractureme.com is the website. And by the way, just for full disclosure, I have no association with any of these companies except one, and I'll tell you about that one. No association with this. So, these are just things that I've used and love and like. The next one is probably the most impersonal one, but it's one of those things that we bought in our house recently that we love. And I got this from my brother-in-law, Kevin. It's a YoTech wireless charger, YoOTECH wireless charger. If you Google it, you can find it on Amazon. They're about $15. And if you have an iPhone 8 or higher, or Galaxy 9 or a Note, I don't understand the Galaxy universe, but if you Google it, it's basically this little pad that sits on a table or a nightstand, and you just plop your phone down and it charges. So I bought like 3 or 4 of them for our house, and my wife loves them because we don't have to, who has the charger? Where is it? We have it where we normally will be. You just plop your phone down and it will automatically wirelessly charge. So it's a convenience thing that many people don't know about or won't buy for themselves. So that's number 2 is the YoTech wireless charger. Now, the third one, and this is one we do a lot in our practice, is Cutco knives. Everybody loves a good knife. And normally what we do is during the relationship, as a thank you, we send out, we were doing steak knives at one time, and now I believe we do a carving knife and one other knife. And we personalize it with the person's name on it. We're not on it at all from a business standpoint, but even from a person. So if you had think of your dad, he likes to carve the turkey. Well, how about a beautiful Cutco carving knife with his name on it or the family name on it? His and her steak knives are nice. They're a little less expensive if you want to make a personalized gift for someone else. So Sally's knife can say Sally and have a handle, that's a different color than John. But we like to give Cutco knives as gifts, and we always put the person's name on it. The engraving doesn't cost that much more. So you're going to spend probably, $150 on the high end for 2 steak knives. Nichole would know this more than I would, but we just started doing that not that long ago. Now, the fourth idea, now this one I do have some association with, so full disclosure. I got to include it in there. The Rock Retirement Book, right? That's not a bad gift. It helps people hopefully think differently. And here's a cool thing. If you buy the Amazon version and leave an honest review and tell me, I still got books, and I'll send you a book for free if you do that. Maybe I'll even include an extra. I'll do that every now and then. Now, the fifth idea is one that you'd have to order. There's this gentleman, Tom Podnar, Podnar, who is a former advertising guy who now moved out of the big city, lives in rural Tennessee, and he makes barn wood signs. We'll have a link to these things in 6-Shot Saturday, so you can get those, because some of these are a little bit obscure. So I met Tom on one of my visits to Franklin, and we have probably 4 or 5 of these barnwood signs in our house. We have one that says Franklin and one that says barbecue today and a few others. But if you've ever watched any of my YouTube videos and you see the wood, a big square of wood, it's a barnwood sign with my logo on it, he'll do custom work. And it's not really that expensive. I mean, these signs are costing, I'm on the site right now, let me look. I don't know. I think like the custom one, I think it was $150, $200. And they have all different sizes. A nice one that you can get, if you see it on his site, he has one. It's like right at the top. It says the Millers established 2019 or 2013 in this case. So you could get one for someone you care about. Say they're the Smiths. You could do the Smiths and have established and the year that they were married. These are awesome gifts. And it's personal, made by a man and a wife who love what they do. So I'll have a link to that, but it's tomthefurnitureguy.com, but it's all Barnwood signs and they ship to 50 states. So big shout out to Tom. I love his stuff. The next one is one that my wife loves. My wife loves this. If I get this for the Christmas season or the holiday season, she's set. And we started getting this from a good friend of mine probably 6-7 years ago. Literally, she talks about it. She's already talking about it. There's this restaurant in Buffalo Gap, Texas called Perini Ranch. And it's owned by a husband and a wife. And they have a lot of great things that you can order online. And it's a cool rustic Western restaurant if you ever get to go there. They have an amazing jalapeno cheesecake. I had it maybe 20 years ago. I haven't had it since, but it was awesome. It was like a pickled jalapeno, so it wasn't super hot, but it had that taste to it. Ooh, it was good. But anyway, what my wife craves and loves is they have a mesquite smoked peppered beef tenderloin that you just open it up and eat it and you peel off of it, and it is fantastic. That's something people will remember. So Perini's Ranch, mesquite smoked pepper beef tenderloin. That's a lot to say. Unforgettable. Awesome. So there's an idea. I think it costs $125 plus shipping, no doubt. All right. Number 7 is, now this is, some people feel like this is a cop-out, where you give them a card and you say, here's an experience that we can have together. It sort of feels like a cop-out, right? Because then you're just sort of punting. You'll get back to it. But you can book the experience, actually set it up, book the experience. It could be a musical. It could be a weekend getaway. It could be some type of experience, but you book it. You don't just put a card and say, hey, we can do this at some point. You actually get it down. Golf outing, maybe golf lessons. You book the experience for the person for something that they actually care about. So the key to this, if you're participating in this, every spouse has figured this out, mostly husbands, is if you're going to book an experience that you're part of, the experience has to be something that's super meaningful to them. Even if you're not 100% into it, you go to enjoy their enjoyment of it, right? So, but you want to have it booked. You want to have it prepaid, not some unknown thing in the future. I think that's a good one because those are memories. The 7th thing, I think we're on number 7. This is top of my mind because I just came back from Joe Soul Say He's board game palooza from Stacking Benjamins. You know, when I got home after going to play board games for like a marathon, that Saturday morning, I slept until like 1:15 in the afternoon. I don't remember the last time I did that. Anyway, but some board games, and you don't have, we play these complicated things, but there are some simple board games that you can buy people that you can play. I mean, literally open up and start playing within 10 minutes. And then my wife and I pull them out, every other day or so just to play rather than watch TV or veg. And so some simple board game ideas are Sequence, which is a combination of like checker-like things and cards, but it's a fun game for up to 4 people. King Domino, which is one I was just introduced to at Joe's, which is, it's like dominoes, but you have these squares that you try to match up. And there's a little bit more to it than dominoes, but it's a fun, easy game that pretty much anybody can play. Card games, obviously. Cards are like the be-all, end-all. Now, you could just have cards, which seems like a pretty, okay, you got me a deck of cards. But you could couple that with, a book on the 20 best card games to play while you're in the airport or something like that, because we love cards. Euchre's our favorite game, being a northerner. And then another one could be Stockpile, which is a newer game that's sort of stock market based, but it's a very simple game that doesn't take a long time to play. So each one of these games, they don't take a long time to play. They're easy to learn, and they're just fun and cooperative in a way. So I think board games are a great gift because they create experiences with people. Number 9, I guess we're on 9. I'm horrible with numbers because I'm looking at my outline here and I don't have it listed, this is one that I need to do with my wife, actually. This needs to be my gift to us is I have a friend who for years, every Sunday night, has gone to, they pick different restaurants, but usually they go to the same restaurant every Sunday night for an early dinner. And they always sit at the bar and they just relax and talk about the weekend, talk about the upcoming week, and have a little conversation. And it does a couple things. It takes them out of their environment of the house, because those kind of conversations typically don't work as well in the house because we're in our normal routines. And two, the fact that it's this ritual that they do every week, they get into a rhythm. So they're always making sure that they're walking hand in hand and they're connected. And I think they pick restaurants and they change every now and then. And I've been telling my wife, we need our place. We need our place that every Sunday night or at least once a week, we just go out and sit together and have a beverage and eat and just talk without TV and without life and everything else. So I think I'll commit to this. So a gift to your spouse could be a gift card for a month, for a quarter's worth of weekly date nights at a restaurant that she likes, that you like. I don't know, maybe you guys have your place already. But I think getting a gift card as a Christmas gift takes the pressure off of the finances in terms of paying for it and doing it, and also forces you to be intentional about getting that party started. Like I've been saying we should do this for a while and we haven't. So if I got the gift card, I would have paid for it. We would have paid for it. We got to use it. That's going to help me in the motivation. But I think that's a good idea. So with our 10th Christmas idea, we're going to bring on Miss Nichole, who has an awesome one. So what are we talking about, Nichole?
Okay, so this is something I got my in-laws last year, and it has been really fun for the whole family, and it's called Storyworth. And so basically what it is every week, Storyworth sends a question to my in-laws for them to answer, and it can be, it's been things like, where were you during the moon landing? What games did you play as a kid? Like, what were your memories of your parents? Those kind of questions. And then they answer them, and my husband and his siblings and I all get to see the answers every week, and we can ask, more questions and things like that. And then at the end of the year, Storyworth actually will assemble all of the questions and answers and everything into a book that my in-laws can have, or they can order additional copies so all of us siblings can have one for our kids. And it's been really fun and really neat to see some of the things that they talk about.
That's pretty cool. You know, one of my most treasured things?
What?
Is when my grandfather was in World War II, he was a gunnery sergeant in the U.S. Army Air Corps and flew in B-17s. That's a side gunner, rear gunner. Mm-hmm. And he kept a little leather journal, really small. And it was just the facts ma'am kind of journal. We flew over Germany, dropped this much tonnage, heavy flak, and he did that for every single mission. But in
really cool.
In his words, there were, although it was sort of a just the facts ma'am type of commentary, just the fact that they're his words and every now and then he would sprinkle something in means a lot.
Yeah. Well, and you probably, did you get to talk to him about those things, or is that like the only way?
He never talked about that stuff. Yeah. He was a scary man. Over time he loosened up, but he was, an intimidating figure to a young kid. Mm-hmm. And with my mom passing so early, it would have been awesome to have some of those thoughts, not just the photos. I love that idea. This is what cool. You can get me for Christmas, by the way.
That's what I can get you?
Because I need to do this. If not, I'll just go buy it myself.
I'll get it for you, and I'll be like, here, Spencer and Emma, this is the awkward gift I bought for you.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm kind of...
Yeah, too personal.
But no, this is an awesome idea. So I like this one. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
All right, Nichole, it is the holiday season, and thanks for that great gift idea, along with the other 9. But let's get to some listener questions. I think we're starting off with David.
Yes, I have a question from David on Social Security. So he writes in that his wife plans to retire at 62, but not actually claim Social Security until later. He wants to know, as the years go by and she's not working and hasn't filed, how will that affect her benefit estimate?
And I did a video on this where I explained this, maybe not as clear as I should have. Just FYI, comments on YouTube are very mean sometimes. But anyway, That's a whole nother subject. But okay, so your wife is retiring at 62. And then from 62 to full retirement age, she's going to have zeros for income. And he's wondering, will that impact her benefit? So when you get your benefit statement in the mail from the Social Security Administration, it shows that estimated Social Security benefit at full retirement. Part of the assumption in that is that you're earning what you earned last year until you reach full retirement, indexed for inflation, because all this is indexed for inflation. So if you have, in this case, let's call it 4 zeros, because you have 4 years where you weren't working before full retirement, is that going to impact what her actual benefit's going to be? Possibly, but likely not by very much. So your benefit is based on what's called the primary insurance amount. And where you don't have to remember all this, but where you get the primary insurance amount is determined by her average indexed monthly earnings, which is basically an average of the highest 35 years of income indexed for inflation. So the closer you get to retirement, so if you have 35 years of work history, even if she retires at 62, they'll just use the highest 35 years in her lifespan. If she doesn't have 35 years of work history, then they'll factor in some zeros into that average. And then that's going to determine what your primary insurance amount is, which is going to determine what your actual benefit is. The closer you get to retirement, the more accurate those Social Security statements are. So if she's 62 and she's going to retire at 66, most likely it's not going to be a dramatic difference, even with those 0 working years. But one thing you can do is you can go to the Social Security Administration. You can actually Google Social Security Administration detailed calculator, and you can input her entire earnings and include those zeros between 62 and 66, and it'll give you a much more accurate estimate. So you can get an idea of how it will impact her actual benefit by her retiring early. So it shouldn't be huge, but you can go check that at the Social Security Administration website.
Our next question is from Nicholas, and he writes in that he's retiring at 55 and hears people talking about the 3 or 4% withdrawal rule. He wants to know which assets he takes the withdrawal from and which accounts. So, stocks or bonds, and from his Roth or his taxable account, that kind of thing.
Okay, Nicholas. Now, we've talked about withdrawal rules before, and they're like rules of thumb. They're great as a general discussion point, but you definitely don't live your life by the withdrawal rate. So I'm not a huge fan of that paradigm and actually solving all this stuff. But to your point, you're going to have to withdraw money to help supplement other income sources, right? So where do you get that? So in theory, Nicholas, when you're modeling things like this, what we do is we have a target asset allocation, and you maintain that allocation and you take out the funds that you need from the portfolio pro rata, so proportionally to the investment. So you always maintain that target allocation. So if that has stocks, bonds, and other assets, you would take it out proportionally so you maintain that target portfolio. Most calculators assume that, at least the calculators I see, assume that you defer taxes as long as possible in terms of what account you take it out of. So as an example, if you have taxable accounts, Roth IRAs, and tax-deferred accounts, most will assume that you deplete your taxable accounts, and then you deplete your Roth accounts, because there's no tax consequence, and then you deplete your tax-deferred accounts. Now, in theory, that's how a lot of calculators work, but that sort of seems backwards, doesn't it? Why wouldn't you keep the Roth longer because of required minimum distributions, the fact that you defer taxes longer, or not taxes, but they're tax-free, so you can take them out later with no tax consequence. So in theory, you do it proportionally from your portfolio, and in theory, you defer taxes as long as possible. Now, let's talk about the real world. That's where you and I live. In the real world, where it's real, it's a little bit more dynamic than that. Nicole's laughing at me. I use a bucket system and refill those strategically. So we keep 2 years of cash reserves for monies that you're going to have to withdraw, so we can let the long-term investments be long-term. And then when we're refilling those buckets, we do that strategically. Meaning sometimes it's from different accounts based on what your projected income is for that year, what your capital gains taxes might be. We make the decision in real time, because it may be that we withdraw from tax-deferred accounts, your IRAs, which we may withdraw from those early because we're trying to get money out of there because your net worth is most of your assets are in tax deferreds and we don't want to get hammered by required minimum distributions. And we take advantage of low tax rates so we can get money out early. So it's a lot more of a year by year decision to think not just tactically in the moment, I need cash, but also strategically based on my mix of tax categories. Maybe it makes sense to be taking tax deferred assets out early, whereas in theory, you would never do that. But typically in the real world, we touch the Roth IRAs last. So there's the theory. And then there's, in the real world, you want to do it on a year by year basis, looking forward to figure out what is most optimal for you. So I hate it when those questions, Nichole, are sort of, this is how it works, but it depends ultimately. But hopefully that helps, Nicholas.
Helpful hints and education. That's what we're
that's right.
providing here, right?
It's a way of thinking about this. And that's a lot of what this is. It's not black or white. It's having a good way of thinking about it so you can make good decisions for you.
Informed decision.
Yeah. Now, this next question, because I've read this question, is sort of, it's a long one, but it's an interesting question, I think.
It is a long one. So it's from Carlos. I'll preface it by saying, though, he loves the podcasts and the YouTube videos and says, great job.
Thanks.
Good work, Roger.
That was for you too, no doubt.
Oh, well, thanks, Carlos. He also says, I'm an aggressive investing type of person who's getting older and thinking about retirement. I know you're a believer in playing it safe and investing in index funds or ETFs. So with that being said, here's my comment and question. If you buy leveraged ETFs for the long run, which are
ETFs that, like if it's invested in the S&P 500, rather than just be invested in the S&P 500, you get like twice the exposure. So it's like 2 times or 3 times the exposure of the same asset in theory.
Right. He says most investing websites advise against those types of ETFs for long term because of the volatility and decay. And he says if you compare the returns on a chart, you will still see that the leveraged ETFs give higher returns over time. So he wants to know a good reason, assuming he can stomach the volatility, that he shouldn't invest a significant part of his portfolio in leveraged ETFs for the long run.
So, well, let's just, I just have comments. I'm not going to answer your question in statistically this makes sense. Your assumption, you say, assuming that I can handle the volatility. Well, you got to be careful with your assumptions, especially as you get older, because, in modern portfolio theory, one of the big assumptions in there is that people make rational decisions. That's a very important assumption in modern portfolio theory. Now, I think it's debatable that people make rational decisions. They're colored by emotional aspects because that's what we are, emotional beings. We are not Spock. So assuming you can stomach the volatility, and I think I did a video on this a few weeks ago on the YouTube channel of, hey, we're all long-term investors as long as we're getting returns until we feel short-term pain, and then we really change our perspective, right?
Right.
I can be very outgoing and considerate of other people until I'm in pain. If I'm in really big pain, normally what's happening, I'm going to be thinking about myself and getting rid of that pain. So we're not as rational as we think we are. So I just have some comments in thinking about this. One is, I'm not necessarily a fan of playing it safe. I'm more about taking risk to achieve something someone actually cares about in terms of the stage of retirement. You take risk to get you something you actually care about. In these leveraged ETFs that try to get double or triple the exposure of a particular asset, they do that using artificial financial products, future contracts, things that, because they don't just buy double on margin, they're using these special instruments, and they have something called decay. And you mentioned that in your more detailed comments. Decay is a real thing when you're buying these, meaning that they're meant to be short-term vehicles. And over time, they don't act as much like they're supposed to as you think. And that, from a statistical standpoint, there are lots of studies on that. But that's a small point. The smartest people in the world have tried to use leverage to their advantage. And we've had great success stories, but we've had amazing failures. Well, what's the name of the book? When Genius Failed. It's a great book from the 90s about long-term capital management who had, the people involved in long-term capital management had the brain power. They were the best of the best in terms of the, intellectually understanding capital markets, leverage, the economy, and everything else. It caused a huge financial crisis and had to be bailed out. And we've seen this in 2008 as well. The smartest people in the world, forming teams, spending very focused time developing systems to use leverage to their advantage, have tried again and again and have failed. So does that make sense for you or me to sit here and buy a manufactured product to use substantial leverage with our financial assets? Why? What's the point? It's not worth the risk in my view. Next comment is, whether you can stomach the volatility and leverage, it's not the same when you're entering retirement, where sequence of risk becomes even much more important. I mean, this is awesome that, if you can handle volatility, that's awesome. While you're working, while you're saving, while you feel empowered because you're able to earn your way out and continue to throw money at investments. But when you enter retirement or you're getting closer to retirement, your work life is going to start to slow down, which means your savings is going to go away, and that you're not going to be able to work your way out of disasters, and you're going to feel emotionally, mentally less powerful when you actually aren't earning money anymore. All of these factors change the mindset. So I think you're going to have to be really careful about that. And I guess my last comment is, what's the point? Assuming you can achieve a life with the assets you have. And if you can't achieve a life without the excess returns that these hold the potential of doing, well, then you probably have bigger problems. That's like doubling down because you need money to pay rent. Maybe there's a bigger problem there. So Carlos, in general, I'm not a big fan of it. So I think we're trying to do more than be optimal on potential returns. We're trying to make sure that we're positioned to create a great life and do that and eliminate all the risks that we can. That's all I got to say about that. So with that, let's go get happy.
Happy all the way.
Ho, ho, ho.
I'm not sure that one works too well.
Welcome to the Happy Lab, where we noodle on how to live a happier life. And I think for me, the kind of gifts that we talk about that are less materialistic and just things and that are personalized, I think I have more fun giving those things. And I think everyone has more fun getting those type of things. What do you think?
I agree.
So maybe that's part of rocking retirement, is getting away from the pressure of getting the right gift. Something that has some personal aspect to it or experiential aspect to it that create those memories are probably going to be more impactful and really aren't going to cost a lot of money.
On your marks, get set.
And we're off to set a 7-day goal to take a little baby step to rock the holidays. So in the next 7 days, I would love for you to email us or maybe reply to 6 Shot Saturday with some cool Christmas ideas, and we will share them in a subsequent 6 Shot Saturday. Does that sound good, Nichole?
That sounds awesome to me.
And then we can all get in the right spirit so we can all rock retirement and holidays together. Hey, if you haven't yet, go check out rockretirementclub.com. This is our new exclusive club of like-minded people that are going to walk life together and figure out how to rock retirement. If you are a do-it-yourself kind of person, that doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. There are a lot of people just like you that want to learn, get empowered, and be inspired to, rock retirement. So go check out rockretirementclub.com if you want to get on the wait list. Bye. No, I'm just kidding. That was our exit last week, and it was like, we need a better outro. So we hope you have a wonderful week.
I didn't realize you were still recording.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. Opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.